we have 3 sons. How do you plan to, even on a parent level, talk to your sons about wokeism, cancel culture, transgenderism? I mean, the list goes on of the crazy things happening. Our 12-year-old especially is starting to just ask a lot of questions, and we're doing the best we can. But how do you plan as a president and a parent, how do you plan to combat the craziness?
Sure.
Sorry.
Absolutely, I'll address that. Sir, did you want to add one to the last question? I'll take them together.
I'm just curious what your process looks like to hire people, because that's probably the most important.
So I'll take yours and I'll close with yours. So the process for hiring people first involves clearing the decks of the people who are already there. I mean, that's where they got Trump. So the first step is that 75% reduction across the board. On day one, I think we're going to implement a 50% headcount reduction across the board. And the law allows you to do that, but you need a president who's actually able to. From a hiring perspective, about half the people we bring in are going to come from outside of traditional governmental roles. I've always built my businesses by bringing in people out of industry, but who are the best and the brightest. I want to run the federal government the same way. So we're going to have large-scale competence. Screening for competence at a large scale. Even people who come, and especially people who come from outside of traditional governmental roles. That's the way we think about it. And so pairing people, we have groups of 3 in each of the agencies at the top. We've already got the map for this. One's going to be a constitutional scholar who understands exactly what the legal basis is for cutting down much of the agency. One's going to be somebody who comes with experience in that agency, ideally somebody who's previously served but shares our views. And then somebody who's an entrepreneur or a businessman coming in from the outside, willing and ready to break things. Somebody who understands that if someone works for you and you can't fire them, that means they don't work for you. It means you work for them. And I refuse, and every agency head who I bring in should refuse to be a hollowed out husk of a puppet. That's the way it's going to change on my watch, and that's my philosophy with respect to hiring. We've already gotten started on that. I'm also the only candidate that has released our list of federal judges, including Supreme Court justices. I think the people deserve transparency on that. And so that's how we do this, is with transparency, aggressiveness with a bias towards outsiders, but not being blithe and ignorant, to have enough people with experience but the right views to marshal that through. That's the answer to your question. Parent to parent, I'll close on this one. So I'll tell you my own journey, right? My first book was Woke Inc., which I wrote several years ago. And so we delved deep into this. And my second book was Nation of Victims. It was about the spread of victimhood culture. And I think part of the role is you got to be able to see the poisons with clear eyes and address them. And there's a logical argument against this. The same, Ayanna Pressley for the racial woke movement. What'd she say? We don't want any more black or brown faces that don't want to be a black or brown voice. That doesn't make sense. So I'd explain to our kids that being black or brown is about the shade of melanin of your skin color, not about the content of the voice you're allowed to have. You have different eye color and different hair color. That's how I'd explain it to my son. It's funny, actually, even you bring that up with my son. Kids see color. My older son's 3. They don't see race. Not yet. He doesn't right now. He'll describe, we have different shades in our own family, even between him and his own brother, who are born different. He'll describe the color of his brother's skin as different from his. He recognizes they look different, but he doesn't see race. So when I talk about parent to parent, and yours is a little bit older, it's a different conversation, but let's start with the basic facts. The LGBTQIA plus movement, and your 12-year-old's probably at the cusp of being exposed to some of that. I'd start with logic. The same movement, I'll call it a cult, but we'll speak in neutral terms. The same movement that says the sex of the person you're attracted to is hardwired on the day you're born, right? That was the gay rights movement, is now the same one that also says your own biological sex is totally fluid over the course of your life. I'm sure a 12-year-old thinking about that could say, that doesn't make sense, right? You can't have both of those things at the same time. But one of the things I've realized is that that's the starter. That's the starting point. Because I could spend all day going through the hypocrisies and the logic of that contradiction. I think the deeper answer is we have to fill the vacuum with something deeper than the poison the other side is filling it with. And we've taught a generation of young people in this country to go to Ben & Jerry's and order a cup of ice cream to fill their moral hunger with some social justice sprinkles on top. You don't satisfy a moral hunger with fast food. And you don't solve it by forcing them to just vomit back out the poison that we filled it with. You got to fill it with the real thing. I think young people, I think all of us are hungry for more substantial fare. That's what I go back to the very beginning. We hunger to be part of something bigger than ourselves right now.